approximately $230,000 a year after taxes for Jerry next 20 years, and they say they don't have any immediate plans for the money, but they all say they're going to take a cruise together. Nice story.
I think that's neat. They can really enjoy their retirement now.
Yep.
And he can get a whole new set of teeth if he needs.
Yes, he can.
That's great.
Any color.
Any color. That concludes this edition of Eyewitness News 530. For Gayle, Phil, Mike, and Hilton, I'm Jerry Brooks.
Some people like gold.
Yeah.
That'll do it for us. We'll see you later on. Take it easy.
Here's Don and Denise.
And coming up next on the 6 o'clock edition of Eyewitness News, 4 Bridgeport police officers are suspended for alleged brutality against a teenager.
And Connecticut's first major snowfall of the season claims at least 3 lives. Also ahead.
The area gets its first taste of white, and that's going to bring out the green for people in the ski business. I'm Jim Vicevich, and I'll have that story.
Some mild weather to follow yesterday's snow. The refrigerator door is closed for now, but when will it reopen? The full forecast coming up shortly.
Janet Peckinpah has the week off. I'm Denise DeSanto.
I'm Don Lark. Dave Smith with Sports Tonight. Stay tuned. The 6 o'clock edition of Eyewitness News is next.
WFSB, Channel 3, Hartford, New Haven. From Channel 3 Eyewitness News, the news most people watch. This is the 6 o'clock report with Don Lark, Janet Peckinpah, Hilton Catterley-Weather, and Dave Smith, Sports.
Good evening. Tonight, 4 police officers are suspended in Bridgeport for allegedly beating up and robbing a teenager last month. Channel 3's Ginny Musanti is on the story.
A Harding High School student, 16-year-old Jose Garcia, says he was brutally attacked by 4 Bridgeport police officers.
It's fairly serious.
This afternoon, Acting Superintendent Anthony Fabrizi suspended the 4 officers, Ernest Garcia, Juan Gonzalez, Keith Bryant, and Edwin Perez, without pay, pending the outcome of a police commission trial.
They do not suspend without pay on a light matter.
So you have reason to believe that the youth is telling the truth?
I am not going to comment.
The brutality allegedly took place on November 2nd. The 4 officers had been called to investigate a fight at the high school and another fight a few blocks away. Jose Garcia said he was just walking home from school, minding his own business, when he noticed a couple of cops were following him. He says he got scared thinking the cops were after him and began to run. When he reached the corner of East Main and Arctic Street, he says the cops caught him and beat him up and took the $50 he had in his pocket to buy a class ring. Garcia then said 2 other officers cuffed him, pushed him into a cruiser, and took him to a deserted street and beat him up again. He says he required hospital treatment.
Knowing these officers, 4 officers, I was surprised by it.
The officers told the union president that they believed Garcia sustained his injuries in the fights they were called to investigate. But Garcia was never charged, and the chief says the fight at the high school involved 2 girls. The police commission hearing is scheduled for December 20th. If the allegations are found to be true, the 4 officers could lose their jobs. Ginny Musanti, Channel 3 Eyewitness News, Bridgeport.
Police tonight are investigating a suspicious death in Berlin. Police say a neighbor went to check in on an elderly woman who had not been seen for several days and found the victim dead in her Lincoln Street home. Investigators are treating the death as a possible homicide. How the elderly woman died is not yet known. Police are withholding the victim's identity until her family is notified. The investigation continues. The first snowfall of the season has now claimed at least 3 lives. The victims, 2 in the New Haven area and the 3rd in Manchester, all suffered fatal heart attacks while shoveling snow. The storm caught many by surprise as it intensified overnight, dumping more than a half a foot of snow in many parts of the state. Channel 3's John Daly reports on the dig-out the day after.
The unexpected storm led to a number of fatal heart attacks, 1 at Manchester Memorial Hospital. 2 other men died at Yale New Haven Hospital. They all were out shoveling snow. Yale New Haven doctors say they had an unusual amount of heart attacks, 5 in a 6-hour period.
Fortunately, we had 2 people who had cardiac arrest at home and unfortunately died before arriving in the hospital. We've had 2 people with definite heart attacks who are being treated in the coronary care unit, one of them who was quite unstable.
Those who suffered the heart attacks were men between 40 and 70 years old. Despite warnings, many were still out shoveling.
It's pretty light. I hope it stays this way all winter long.
Oh, no, it's fluffy. It's pleasant. It really is very pleasant.
In addition, St. Raphael's in New Haven and St. Francis in Hartford treated 6 people for hand injuries involving snowblowers. 2 men actually lost fingers. The ride into work this morning was fairly safe. Most roads were cleared in time for the morning rush hour despite the surprise storm.
Some of our equipment was equipped for leaf operation, so during the storm we did cut over from one operation to the other.
Most towns like Middletown will be on call tonight. Roads are wet from melting snow and they could freeze tonight, so sanding and salting operations are ready. But today was certainly good news for the many school children who got the day off. John Daly, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Well, where did it snow the most and what's ahead tonight? Couple of questions for Hilton. Hilton?
All right, Don, Denise, we had quite a bit of snow and there was a wide variation. So as you look at these figures where there was rain along Connecticut's southeast coast, 8 inches of snow just inland and 6.5 to 7 inches of snow along other sections of the coast, I'll tell you two quick little vignettes. One, a woman came into where we were collecting toys in Waterford this afternoon, said she got no snow in Mystic, but just down the road in Madison there was 8 inches of snow on the ground on the shoreline. Then you get back to 5.5 inches in New Haven, 3 inches in Milford, 6.5 inches in Bridgeport. So it was spotty even where we seemed to indicate heavy snow. Up to 8 inches, perhaps more, but on Long Island up to a foot, maybe 14 inches in some locations. So this was really a freak storm. Tomorrow, I don't see any freaks on the map. We've got dry, mild air over us for tomorrow afternoon and some real cold air poised to pour in tomorrow night. We'll let you know how cold this air will get and how long it'll stay with us a little later in the news. Don?
All right, thank you, Hilton. If last night's snowfall has left you grumbling and stumbling for your snow shovel, it's made local ski operators very happy. Ski areas in southern New England are off to an early start and hoping for a very big year. Channel 3 business editor Jim Weisvich reports.
They're off and running in southern New England. 2 weeks of cold weather and snowmaking and 3 inches of new snow have most of the ski areas open much earlier than last year. Fingers, not skis crossed. The people here at Mount Tom in Holyoke expect big things this December.
We opened 2 weeks before Christmas, the first time in years we've been able to do that. That makes Christmas vacation legitimate for a lot of people. They're starting to really take skiing serious earlier.
Chance to make a lot of money?
Hopefully, you know, skiing is a big-time Christmas.
Don't underestimate this early start to the season. Even with a warm December, last year was a good one for these areas.
If we continue on and we don't get too much warm weather, then we should do quite a bit better than last year, which was a very good year.
But the snow isn't important just to the people who run the ski areas. It also brings out the business for the people who sell the skis, boots, poles, and all the other equipment that go along with skiing. And anybody who skis will tell you that's a pretty big business.
It's really been picking up. Now with the snow, it's been kazooing here this morning.
The snow really makes that big a difference?
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable is an understatement. This equipment is not cheap, but somehow when the snow falls, people are willing to part with their money.
The clothes and everything, that's what's mostly, you know, it runs into a lot of money.
About how much again for you?
$5 for the skis, maybe a few more, $100 for the clothes.
This year, ski resorts in the East have spent a record $61 million on improvements. Understandable when you consider the kind of return they're expecting this year. I'm Jim Weisvich, Channel 3 Eyewitness News in Holyoke.
And coming up next on Eyewitness News, a possible suspect in serial killings in New Bedford. We'll have a story.
And more taped evidence is disputed at the Wells Fargo trial. Also ahead.
I'm Linda Carson. Coming up, we'll take you on a visit to a very special toy store that will make all the difference in the world to some children's Christmas.
The defense in the $7 million Wells Fargo robbery case raises questions about the translations of tapes in the case. They were introduced by the prosecution and translated from Spanish to English by a translator who was paid $150,000 by the government. The tapes are of conversations between some of the defendants in the case. But the defense says the English words the translator has used in many instances are misleading and inflammatory.
The word compa, which everybody uses in Puerto Rico as bro, pal, and the dictionary says companion, workmate, pal, friend. She chooses to translate as comrade to give it some kind of sinister meaning, when in fact judges refer to attorneys in Puerto Rico as compañero.
The trial, which is in its third month, is expected to last until February. This is the first of perhaps 3 trials in that case.
Tonight, authorities in New Bedford will not say if a suspect who's been charged in a second rape case may also have played some role in a recent series of murders. 35-year-old Neil Anderson pleads innocent today to 1 count of rape and kidnapping. He'll be back in court tomorrow. There are similarities. He allegedly picked up both women in the same section of New Bedford and drove them out to Dartmouth. Since July, the bodies of 6 women have been found in that same general area. All had frequented a section of town that's known for prostitution and drug dealing. Anderson's bail is set at $20,000. Tonight, it's a split decision for the Navy, with one lucrative submarine contract going to Electric Boat, the other to EB's chief competitor, Newport News. EB landed a $400 million contract to build a Los Angeles-class sub, completion date November 1993. The Newport News contract was worth just under $340 million. The contracts, of course, are critical to continued employment at both shipyards. Denise?
Salvation Army is spreading more Christmas cheer tonight. Its annual Toyland shop opened today, and as Channel 3's Linda Carson reports, it will help bring the magic of Christmas to dozens of needy homes.
You'd probably like something like that.
Wayne Casey went on an important mission this morning. He visited the Salvation Army's Toyland to choose the presents his children will get from Santa.
We had a lot of bad luck this year. You know, my father passed away, and things been hard, you know. So this helps out a lot. It brings a smile on your face.
A lot of children will have smiles on their faces Christmas morning, thanks to Toyland. For the next 3 days, some 4,000 families will come here to choose free toys for their youngsters. Each parent gets to select one toy for a boy from a wide selection of boys' toys and one toy for girls. Plus, each girl also gets a doll, and each boy gets a game. The Salvation Army spends a lot of time, effort, and money on Toyland.
In June, we go out and buy 4,000 toys at NAMCO. We have the insurance company people and the girls from the bank dress about 1,500 to 2,000 dolls that we give out.
You see the red kettles out on the corner, and this is what a lot of that money goes for, stocking the toy shop. We spend about $30,000 on toys for this project alone.
And without this toy shop, Christmas morning would be a bleak affair for many Connecticut children.
Toyland, I believe, means to them simply that they're going to have toys under the tree on Christmas Day.
One toy, a small thing, but it can bring a lot of happiness to a child on Christmas morning. Linda Carson, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Well, coming up on Eyewitness News, we'll take you to the nation's capital for an enlightening ceremony.
And one more day of melting snow, then a change in the forecast. Hilton's forecast coming up next. Stay with us.
In sports, a big victory for CBS today as the network outbid NBC for exclusive rights to televise Major League Baseball. Beginning in 1990, CBS will begin its 4-year exclusive coverage of the World Series, the All-Star Game, both league playoffs, and a 12-game regular season package. Back here in the state, the Hartford Whalers will take a 3-game winning streak into Chicago. They'll play the Blackhawks tonight, then the St. Louis Blues tomorrow night. Phil Andrews is on assignment today, but he left us with a look at last night's sports action.
Well, John, our basketball highlights begin in stores. Well, last night, the Yukon Huskies made venison out of the Fairfield Stags with a 71-48 victory. Now, Phil Gamble hit a 3-point basket for the 29th consecutive game, this one giving the Huskies a 41-24 lead in the second half. Now, a somewhat quiet night for big man Cliff Robinson, who ran into foul trouble early. Robinson with only 10 points, including 2 off a missed Murray Williams shot here. Fairfield's Troy Bradford led all scorers with 21 points, that jumper cutting it to a 44-28 deficit. But the Huskies just too much to handle. Cliff Robinson with a leaner here, this one off the mark, but Murray Williams returns an earlier favor, tips it in. 71-48 Yukon. They are now 5-1 on the year, and next Friday play Pepperdine at the Civic Center. On the pro circuit, another rough and tumble night for the Larry-less Boston Celtics, coming out on the short end of a 115-105 loss to Washington. Jeff Malone taking the feed there for the baseline runner. Dennis Johnson with a 3-pointer there finds the mark. Kevin McHale also had a good night, pacing the Boston scoring attack with 22, including a couple off the shot there. But the night really belonged to Bernard King, who led everyone with 30 points as the Bullets put the Celtics in their place. Meanwhile, the first-place New York Knicks continue to own a solid hold on first place in the Atlantic Division, rebuffing the Nets 121-100. Rick Pitino has done a marvelous job with this crew, who currently own the third-best record in the NBA. Patrick Ewing there with 2 of his 16 points. Things got pretty messy at times.
Connecticut agencies reacting tonight to the governor's call for budget cuts. Officials from the Department of Education say they can't afford any more cutbacks, that the trimmed budget plan they've already submitted is bare bones. That's also what they're saying at the Corrections Department. Officials say every penny is needed to deal with the state's overcrowded prisons. The governor's ordered all agency heads to trim costs given the state's mounting deficit. Tax hikes next year are a certainty.
Well, they're also talking budgets at the 3 networks on baseball. NBC has had it since when? At least a piece of it, 1947, you were saying?
Something like that. Yeah. And you would assume that they just roll along with baseball.
Not so. There have been at least 10 different scenarios as to who would have what part of the baseball television package. The final scenario was announced today. CBS got the whole over-the-air pie. Regular season, All-Star Game, playoffs, World Series. There will also be a national cable package bid on later. CBS's package wasn't cheap. The cost, $1 billion for 4 years. That's right, $1 billion. Bruce Hirsch should have waited out in San Diego. He'd have gotten more money. The contract kicks in after the '89 season.
We pledge to baseball that the same quality, the same consistency, the same high level of attention and care and enthusiasm and dedication that we bring to all the other sports that we do, we will bring to baseball.
Doesn't get much more self-serving than that, does it? United Press announced its Coach of the Year today. College football, the winner is undefeated Lou Holtz of Notre Dame. Lou has one game to play against West Virginia. He's favored to finish at 12-0. Lou paid $220 as the favorite. And in Athens, Georgia, Vince Dooley retired after 25 years as coach of them Dogs, whose Georgia teams won 6 Southeast Conference titles. In 1980 with Herschel Walker, he swept the card and won the national title. Now it's rumored he'll run for governor. He'll step down as coach January 2nd after the Gator Bowl game.
There has been and probably will continue to be public speculation about my plans. I have several possibilities which interest me, including opportunities in business as well as a long-standing interest in the political life of this state.
Yep, going to run for governor. I look forward to the Big East season. These mismatches that infest college basketball every December have got to stop. They aren't about to stop, they won't stop, but they should. And it's not just UConn. From the king of the mismatch maker, John Thompson at Georgetown, to every other alleged power in Division I. Tonight, for example, Syracuse plays U.S. International. How do you think they'll do? Do they need the win that bad? Does U.S. International need the money that bad? Do students and alums really enjoy watching their school bury a nobody? My feeling is that these mismatches do no one any good at all, but they ain't about to stop. At least UConn played Purdue and Virginia, games you could get interested in. Last night, UConn 71, Fairfield 48. Fairfield, well, they tried. They took the Huskies into the second half before they got buried, but buried they were. Fans cheered. Wasn't it great? The Fairfield kids don't feel too good about themselves today. The UConn kids got little or no benefit from this at all, but the alum are happy, and it's a win. Next game, the 23rd, against Pepperdine. Should be tougher. Villanova's here January 4th. That should be even tougher. And please, can we forget the game with Harvard in their tournament? Fairfield was undermanned with a bunch of injuries, but with the score been that much different anyway. UConn's program has put a ton of space between itself and the Fairfield program. These Celtics have to play again tonight against Utah. At least they're home this time. Last night they were beaten by the Washington Bullets, who had lost 7 in a row. Bernard King and Jeff Malone were unstoppable in the fourth period. The Celtics kept it close at 5 points and 3-point margins, but every time they got that close, Washington had an answer. McHale kept it as close as he could with the tip. Wouldn't go. The Knicks, meanwhile, beat the Nets by 21 for Rick Pitino. The Knicks lead the division by 2.5 games over Philadelphia. They have become a force. The fans are back. They seem to know what they're doing and what each other is doing. For the last 15 years, you couldn't say that about the Knicks. Now you can. And Red Sox fans, your general manager, Lou Gorman, 4-year extension of his contract today. So losing Bruce Hirsch didn't hurt him a bit.
There you go. All right.
Thank you, Dave. Coming up next on Eyewitness News, lighting the nation's capital Christmas tree. The story is next. Stay with us. Eyewitness News continues on the Night Beat at 11. Tonight, police are handling the death of a Berlin woman as a possible murder. We'll have the latest on that investigation. A Connecticut church holds a memorial service for the victims of the Armenian earthquake. And we'll also hear from volunteers back from the disaster area. Night Beat Sports and the forecast tonight at 11.
And finally at 6, a holiday touch for the U.S. Capitol. About an hour ago, the Christmas tree was lit up on Capitol Hill. Channel 3's Washington Bureau Chief Tina DeLand is there.
Just after Thanksgiving, the Michigan tree was cut down in the Manistee National Forest, then loaded onto a truck to begin the 770-mile-long trip from Cadillac, Michigan to Washington, D.C., arriving here in the Capitol 2 weeks ago. This tree was picked from a group forester Jerry McCormick found over a year ago when he was asked by the architect of the Capitol to search for the perfect Christmas tree.
We identified 10 candidate trees, took pictures of those, sent them back to Paul, and he made the selection from that.
So the architect of the Capitol kind of had a beauty pageant for Christmas trees.
Well, he's done this for 25, 26 years.
But this is the first tree from Lower Michigan to be selected. The folks back home were so pleased they raised private money for the trip and enough to send the Cadillac High School band to the ceremony. The kids have been in town all week now, sightseeing, rehearsing, and getting nervous about their performance. Is everybody nervous or just these ladies in front? So while the national Christmas tree behind the White House may be more famous, and the president's tree inside the mansion may be more elegant, but no tree could be more beautiful than this one, the Capitol Christmas tree. In Washington, Tina Galan, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
It is a beautiful tree, and Tina's right about that distinction, a major distinction between people who live in upper lower Michigan and lower upper Michigan, the upper peninsula, as they say. Tremendous competition, but as we've seen, they both have huge trees that are perfect for Christmas on the Capitol lawn.
Don,
wouldn't you say?
You've done it again. I think you've said it all.
That's our news at 6. Thanks very much for joining us once again.
And we'll see you tonight at 11. Have a good evening.